Brothers and sisters, thanks for joining me. Today, let's play Final Fantasy XI online. Well, maybe we won't play it, but let's see if we can get it installed. What I want to do today is really run through an overview of how to install Final Fantasy XI. Just for some background, this was a game that came out about 20 odd years ago. I think it came out in 2002. I played this game for many, many, many years and really loved this game until they came out with a new version, Final Fantasy XIV, and I played that for a few years. But Final Fantasy XIV started to bore me, and it just got to be a daily grind, and it just seemed like a job, and it was very repetitive. So I said, you know what, I don't want to play this anymore. So I haven't actually played Final Fantasy XIV in a few years, but recently I've been kind of wanting to play Final Fantasy XI again, and I saw they had a Return to Vanadiel campaign, and Vanadiel is the world that Final Fantasy XI is set in. And so I wanted to play. And so that's what I want to do. I want to start playing it and see if I can recapture some of the magic from 20 odd years ago and see, what's the game like today? It's probably been 5, 10 years since I touched this game. I can't really remember. It's been a while. But it is a little bit difficult to install. And so if you can get this thing installed, that's like the first boss challenge to fight because it's not easy. It's an old game. There have been many things have changed over the years, so it's a little harder to install than a modern game. But if you're up for it, let's do it. Now, a few things to warn you about before we start. Final Fantasy XI is a fee-based game. It's not free to play, or not the way I play it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play it on what they call the retail version. There are multiple instances of Final Fantasy XI online out there. One of them that I'm going to call the retail version is still managed and run by the original creators of the game, and it's still up and running, but it is fee-based. There are other versions if you want to play those, and I really don't know a lot about them. I know one popular one is called Horizon, and it level caps people at level 75, which I actually think the best time in the game was during the era where it was capped at level 75, and it was super, super hard to get to level 75, and then they did multiple expansions at the 75 level cap. But since then, the retail version has moved on and there have been additional expansions, and you can actually get up to level 99 and even higher with gear. So that's the one I'm going to play. But if you want to play the 75 era, then Horizon might be your thing. And I don't know much about it, so I don't know the fees or anything like that related. I don't know if it's free or not. But there are other ones out there. But again, this is going to be the process to play the original kind of retail version upgraded to the latest and greatest. So with that, let's see, how do you install it? So the first thing I would do if I was wanting to install this is I would go to the main Final Fantasy XI website. It still exists, and as you can see, it's still developer supported. They did an update December 9th, and this is 2024, by the way, for those watching it. I'm playing this in December 2024. It does still have a developer community. It's just, I'm sure it's a very small one, and they don't do patches and updates too often, but they do them occasionally. All right, so I would come here. And then the next thing I would do is say, okay, am I a new player or am I returning? Did I used to play it in the past? If you look at the top left under home on this page, it says for new players and it says for returning players. So you choose which one are you. And so I'm just going to quickly go through these. This could be a long video, so I'm going to try to go as quick as I can and still have it make sense. But if you're a new player, come here. And again, like I said, it's fee-based, but there is a free trial. Down at the bottom right, there's a button on this page that says free trial. Now, for some reason, the free trial button isn't showing up on my screen, so you can't see it, but trust me, it's there, bottom right corner. So click the free trial. When you click it, it's going to take you to the Square Enix store, because Square Enix is the company that owns Fantasy and has always produced it. Well, I think it used to be called Squaresoft originally when the game first came out, but they've merged over the years, and I think it's Square Enix now. Now, it it brings you here, but it really doesn't say anything about free to play. So on the search pro, for product, just type free trial. And then you see here, Final Fantasy 11 14-day free trial. So just go through the process of downloading this. And then it's got install instructions here. So just follow these instructions. But I'm not going to go through it. At the end of your free trial period, you're going to have to purchase the game if you want to continue playing, and you'll have to sign up for a subscription. It's really an old style account for how you pay for it. So if you go to the same place we were at before, right now I see a Final Fantasy 11 discount campaign button. You may or may not have that, but if you click that, right now it's $10 to buy the software. So that would get you the base software plus all the expansion packs that have ever come out for $10, but it is on discount depending on when you get it. I've seen it as high as $30 to buy this. So I would play the free trial, and if you really like it and want to continue after the 2 weeks, come back and uh, and and buy this. And the free trial is limited. Like I think you can only have like 3 characters. You're limited to maybe like 100,000 gil, and gil is the currency in game. That's actually a lot if you're first starting. It's not a lot for end game, but for 2 weeks, 100,000 gil is plenty. And I think it might be capped at level 50. So they're just giving you a taste of the game to see if you want to keep playing it. If you want to go further than that, then yeah, you got to buy the game. All right, so now you've bought the game, and then the last thing you've got to do is you've got to sign up for a subscription. And if you're new, that should be easy. You just go in and set up a Square Enix account and start paying for it. If you're a returning character, that might be a little harder. So I'm going to kind of run through that real quick. All right, so now we bought the game, and we've done all that as a new character. So I'm going to close these windows. I'm going to come back to the same website, and I'll put the link to this website in the description so you guys don't have to write it down, but it's playonline.com/ Final Fantasy 11 US index.shtml will bring you here. And you notice it's play online at the top. And that's because back when Final Fantasy first started, the platform it ran on and you would do payments on, and they were trying to start it up so you could do chat on it, was called Play Online. And basically, Square had this idea that all of its games would use that as its platform, sort of like early Steam, kind of 20 years ago. Well, they got rid of that when Square Enix bought them, and they changed over to paying for it through the Square Enix website, and that's kind of what causes some of the difficulties here, because that transition for a new player, you know, did you ever use the Square Enix or did you only use the Play Online? So these kind of questions kind of have to be answered so that you can actually get back into the game after all this time. So let's run through returning players real quick. Pretty much the same level of detail we did on the last one. Try not to take too long. So for returning players, click here, and there's 4 steps. So step 1, you got to check if you had a Square Enix account. And so this is basically, did you ever have a Square Enix account? And if you had Final Fantasy 14, you do have a Square Enix account, because by then it was Square Enix, and definitely you would have created an account. And if you have a Final Fantasy 14 account, you can use that same account. You just go in here and sign up to start playing Final Fantasy 11. So this step 1 is really all about, do you have a Square Enix account? If not, let's create one. If you do have one, do you remember how to get in? Might have to reset your password and such. Step 2, play online ID migration check. So when people first created their Final Fantasy accounts back in 2002 or so, they would have created a play online ID, and that's what their character and their account was kind of tied to, and their subscription. But then they migrated it over to the Square Enix account. So this is really a step to check, did you do that in the past? And if you ever had a Square Enix account on Final Fantasy 11, then you did this. But if you didn't, this is something you're going to have to do as a returning player. Now, you always have the option to just play as a new player and create a new account, but if you had a lot of progress on your account and on your character and you want to, recover that, then you're going to have to go through this. All right, so once you've got your Play Online ID identified and attached to this account, then the next step is you got to set up payment. So this is the subscription. So you would go into the Square Enix account, give them a credit card, or you can buy tokens called Krista, which is their Square Enix's versions of currency, and you can buy that and use that to pay for your subscription account. And so the subscription account, it's around, I think it's like $12 a month for the basic one that comes with a couple of characters, I think 3 characters maybe. Don't hold me to that. And then you can buy additional characters and you can buy additional storage at about a dollar a month. But I would start out with the $12 a month if you're new, and then see, do you like this? And then if you like it and you need more inventory or you need more character slots, then yeah, go ahead and pay more. But start with the $1 and see what happens. And then the last thing you do is you do the game installation. And you really need to have the account set up before you do the installation. So that's why it's set up this way. All right, so then basically you just click through these steps. Do you have a Square Enix account or are you unsure? Or do you not have one? So this one would be setting one up. So I have one. If you use the Square Enix account, that's me. And so basically it says, okay, you had an account. Now we just need to get you logged in. Everything you need is on that first website I showed you. This Square Enix account can be found right here, Square Enix Account Management System. So if you click there, it takes you to here. This is the Square Enix Management account. And so you would put in your Square Enix ID here, you'd put in your password here that you had, and if you'd ever set up two-factor authentication, you'd have here what they call a software token, or you'd have a software authenticator on your account for two-factor authentication. And if you forgot any of this, these steps are going to help you get logged back in. How do I get back in if I've lost my software token? Because it used to be a hard token, but I think they've migrated it now, so it's just on Google Authenticator. So it could be a hard token that you carry around like a dongle, or it could be a piece of software on your phone. Could be either way. But there is a procedure to remove the token if you can't get into it. It's a hassle, and you've got to work with their support if you don't have your emergency removal password. But it can be done, but you have to work through it. And I'm not going to go through that. You can get there from here again on the main website, the very top right. There's a little red box that says Square Enix Account Management System. All right, so back here. So this is, again, the same place I just showed you if you look at the middle of my page. And so basically you're going to go through the steps here to log into the account and really check in this box 1, 2, or 3, do you see your old Final Fantasy 11 account over here? And it should be listed in box number 2 if you have one, even if it's inactive. And then basically you go through the steps of reactivating it. I'm in the green again down here at the bottom. If Play Online Final Fantasy 11 displays, your ID in here, then proceed to next step. And so if you look at the bottom here, it says XXXX99999 US, right? That is going to be what's listed up here, I believe, in that box 2. That is your Play Online ID. You're going to need that to move forward and actually log into the game. So just remember that. You're going to need really 3, 4 things to log into the game for credentials. You're going to need this Play Online ID. You're going to need the Square Enix ID that logged you into this account that's in the middle here in step 2. And you're going to need the password for that same account. And you're going to need your token if you've got two-factor authentication. So you're going to need the Play Online ID and your Square Enix account credentials to move forward. So that's why you do all of this before you install the game, because if you don't have this stuff, then you can't get into the game anyway, so why bother installing it? All right, so in my case, I did have my account shown in number 2, my Play Online ID account. So that's proceed to next step here in the green. That takes me down to step 3. I can get into my Square Enix account. I have my Play Online ID, and now is my character listed there? It shows my character name and world here. And yes, it did. So now we're at the step where we've got to set up the subscription and basically pay the $12. And so here you go in and you'll actually put in a credit card or you'll buy Krista and basically get your subscription set up. You go in here and you pay for it and you set up your subscription so that now you have an active, or what it says here, recurring character. And you've got multiple options if you had multiple character slots that you can reactivate here. Then once you've got that done, you come down and you're actually ready to install the software. So if you don't have it installed, there's two places you can go. You can go to the Windows install page here, and it brings you here. And the other way to get to it is, again, back at this very first page that I showed you, up here at the top left, free Windows client download. If you click that, it takes you to the same place. So now here's where you actually get the software. So there's there's five zip files here. Just go ahead and download all of those to some temporary directory. Then once you have those downloaded, I found that the instructions were a little confusing because it said unzip all of these, but then they won't unzip. So just run the executable. So just double click on this .exe file. That will extract all the files for you, and you'll see this box down here at the bottom, and it'll extract. And just, again, choose another temporary folder. When that finishes, you actually are ready to install the program. So down here, installing the Play Online viewer. So really what you do is go to the extracted files and find FFXI setup. And it'll be located in FFXI setup _US folder that you select, wherever you selected to put that folder when you did the extract. So run that. And then just install everything that it wants to install. And that takes, I don't know, that might take 10 minutes, something like that. All right, so now you've got it installed. So you're ready to launch the game. So let's do it. One of the last things you're going to want to do before you actually play the game is run the Final Fantasy XI configuration tool. So you'll be able to find that in a folder called Play Online. So if you go on your computer and you look, you'll see a folder called Play Online. That's where all the executable shortcuts are going to be to run the game. So you've got a Final Fantasy XI here. You've got a FFXI config. You got a Play Online viewer, a Play Online viewer config. So these are the files that basically run and configure the game. So the one you want to start with is Final Fantasy config. The FFXI here and the Play Online viewer will let you, either of those will let you run the game. But this one is the one you want to help configure it. So let's run that. So it's going to come up, it's going to look something like this. And you just want to set these settings. What I would suggest is on screen settings, I would go with borderless windowed so you can multi-screen if you want, and you can Alt-Tab between applications. And then one thing to know, if you Alt-Tab, sometimes your mouse will stop working if you're on the wrong tab. So if, or your keyboard will stop working. So if your mouse or keyboard aren't working in game, just Alt-Tab and make sure that's your active window, and that should fix it. So I play at 3840 resolution, but you play on whatever monitor and graphics card you have. UI size, this really depends. For most people, if you're going to play it with a tool called Windower to help you, then I would just run this on the UI on small and then use the Windower to fix your UI size. If you're just going to play the vanilla version right out of the box, then I would probably go with medium or a little bit higher than medium. And what you're going to want to do is set these settings, launch the game, run around in the game, see if you like those settings. If you don't, back out of the game, run it again. You can't do it in game. So again, it's an old game, so it causes some problems It makes it a little harder to do these kind of things. Brightness for me, right in the middle works. So that's what I do on the general settings. Graphics, the draw precision, what I find is you want to set this at double what you have your resolution set to. So I'm 3840 by 2160, so double that, and it's 7680 4230. So that's what I do, and maintain the aspect ratio. Then on quality, generally I set everything to high except the fonts. It really depends what fonts you want. So if you're running third-party tools like I am, then I just go with standard fonts. But you may want to choose the high quality fonts within the game. So just change this slider to meet your needs. Here you're going to want draw distance checked. That just allows the graphics to draw things that are farther away, and so you have a little bit better resolution. This enhanced shading, go ahead and check that. But what you'll find out if you come back to it after you launch the game, it's unchecked. But I would still check it to start with, and then um, not worry about it afterwards. If it unchecks itself, it's fine. For features, where is it gonna store your screenshots? It shows you that. Take a screenshot in your screen's resolution. I usually leave it at that. Um, and then that's pretty much all you got there. Then for other, enable sounds. I usually leave sounds enabled and then crank it up as high as it goes. And then I just adjust that within the game or within the computer if I want to change it. Play sounds in the background. Yep, I usually leave that. Legacy settings, I don't think you probably need to mess with that. But if you have trouble, like you need a hardware cursor or something like that, then you might have to come back for your graphics and computer and check some of these. But I just leave those alone. Create a desktop shortcut so that it would put a Final Fantasy shortcut like the one I've got here on your desktop. And that's all you got in there. And then the last thing I would do is gamepad settings. So I just click gamepad settings, and here it really depends on your gamepad and your layout if you're going to use a gamepad. You can also use a keyboard and mouse, but I use a gamepad, and the one I use is a Xbox controller, Xbox wireless controller, and so I usually use the X input F for predefined settings, and then you can change these again to meet your needs, whatever you like. Uh, and this should be pretty self-explanatory to most people. Anyway, so you'll need to do that. And then, like I said, if you don't like a certain setting, you just need to back out of the game, run this utility again, and just keep doing that process till you dial in your settings the way you like. Then when you get that done, you're pretty much ready to play the game. So hey, have fun. You'll have an icon on your desktop called Play Online, or you can find it in the Start menu. If you go to Start, Play Online, yeah, you'll see something called either FFXI or it'll say Play Online Viewer. I've already renamed it on mine, and things look a little different on mine. I'll tell you why in a minute. I've added a few mods, but basically you'll run it, and when you do, it's going to run something called Paulbot, and then it's going to do this. First time you run it and you get to this spot, it's going to automatically want to patch itself. And that's going to take 5 minutes maybe, and it's going to automatically patch. Then the next step is here's where you're going to have to put in your credentials. And what you're going to want to do is go to this settings, and then you're going to want to come up here and say settings again, and you're going to put in your member name. So your member name is going to be your Square Enix ID, whatever that is. And then you're going to want to put in your Play Online ID next, and that's going to be 4 letters and 4 numbers. And you will have got that off your Square Enix account page. And then then it says it wants your Play Online password. That's just going to be your Square Enix password. And then if you use two-factor authentication, what I like to do is put my Square Enix ID down at the bottom, and then I put use one-time password. So it's going to ask you for your one-time password from your authenticator if you've got that set up. So that's how I set mine up. So once you get that information, you say okay. It shows you the confirmation on it, and then you're ready to log in. So you hit log in. When you hit log in, you're going to put in your Square Enix password again. I know it's a hassle. You'll only have to put those other settings information in once you get it right. After that, you just have to do this when you're logging in. So you put that in, and you might find it a little tricky, but you type it in and then you hit that little circle. So this was first set up to run on, I think, PlayStation. So it's got some weirdness for that. And then here's your one-time password. When you get to this spot, this is where you need your phone or whatever your authenticator is, and you'll put in your two-factor authentication password. And then you hit connect. And you can go through these menus, but the quickest way is just hit this little shortcut here up on the left. It looks like a little crystal. Click that because there's really nothing else in Play Online anymore. It's just really a platform for launching Final Fantasy 11 because Final Fantasy 11 was first set up that way and they've never gone back and retooled that. And then you hit play and you hit play, you read the disclaimers, and that should get us pretty much to character creation and character selection. And I'm not going to go through character creation. And you can watch this video, but I'm not going to watch it here this time. Maybe I'll watch it at another one. But basically, it's an introductory story. But I'm going to cancel that. Just hit a key and the introductory movie will go away. And you can turn that off in the settings so you won't see it. All right, so if you're going to create a character, you would go here. I'm not going to go through it all, but just very quickly, you've got choices of a hume, which is a standard human, male, female. You've got elven, which are really, these are tall, kind of Tolkien type elves. Um, you've got Taru. These are little like hobbit kind of guys and gals. And you've got Mithra, which all Mithra are female in this game for some reason. Um, or you've got Galka, which are all male, I think, in this game, if I remember right. I could be wrong. Tell me in the comments if I got that wrong. So basically, why would you choose each one? Hume is just your basic average person. They're good at everything, but not exceptional at anything. Elven are generally are stronger than most. I think they're the strongest character in the game, but they've got, because of that, they're a little lower in like magical points that you need for spell casting. The Taru are your probably arguably your best spellcasters because they have the highest mana pools. Um, Mithra are again kind of a average like humans, but they're a little bit better at like agility, so they make good thieves. Galka have high vitality, so they'll have the most hit points and be the second strongest and most hit points. So that might be why you want them. So generally, if you're a Galka, you're going to be some kind of fighter warrior type class. If you're going to be a Mithra, that might be good if you want to start out as like a thief. Taru, it's going to be low strength, low hit points, but it's going to have highest magic. So any kind of magic class, that's probably the best. Elven highest strength. So for raw DPS, generally an Elven's going to be a little bit higher, and then a Hume is middle of the road. And there's no difference between male and female characters in this game when it comes to stats. But to be fair, the stat differences are really minor. Uh, you can make up a lot of it in gear, and they're so close that it really doesn't matter. Even at the highest levels, the differences aren't that bad. I think the where you're going to really notice it would sometimes be the mana. There might be like one more spell you could cast as a Taru. Um, and so that's why you would do it. So I generally didn't really worry about it. Deslok was an Elven, but if you're really worried about it, just play a Hume and be the average. Or if you really want to be a magic user, play play the Taru if you want to min max. But classes are also not a big deal in this game, and every race can be every class. And I'm not going to go through it now, but it's very simple to change classes and in this game and be multi-class basically. They have a sub job kind of function. Again, I'm not going to go into that. I'll go into that in my next video. And I'm not going to go through this, but you can tool up your character to the way you like it. You can change faces and heights and all that. And it has nothing to do with the actual functioning in the game. It just makes your character look different. All right, so I'm going to get out of this, and then I'm really just going to launch into the game and talk about one other thing. So you notice here, like I have the game plus here's all the expansions that ever came out. So if you buy the full version with all the expansions, you'll get all these, whatever it is, 10, 11 expansions that came out over the years. The game has been running for 20 odd years, but I think the last expansion must have been like 10 years ago, the Seekers of Adeline. Um, but really playing the base game, you can at least get to level 50 in the base game, and then this Rise of Zillart expansion gets you up to 75, I believe. Maybe the base game went to 75, but at least the Rise of Zillart went to 75. And we stayed at 75 probably all the way to probably this Vision of Abbacy. And that's where the 99 came in, I believe. I could be wrong. Could have been Shantoto Ascension. It's been a while since I played. So then to get into the game, you hit select character. And so here's Deslok. You see a little stats over here. It's hard to read, but Deslok, he's on the word Sylph because Deslok started out on the world of Fairy, and he was a member, one of the first members of a Link shell called Lost Paradise. And I had a great time playing with those guys and gals. We were on Fairy, but Fairy got decommissioned just because there weren't a lot of people playing anymore once the game started going into its hiatus. So everyone on Fairy got moved to a server called Sylph. So Deslok plays on Sylph, as do all the original Fairy players. But if you end up on a server you don't like, there is also a transfer capability. You have to pay a fee, and they do discounts of it every once in a while. But basically, you go in and they'll transfer you over and all your stuff over to a new server. And there's a process for that if you want to go to a more populated server, a server where some of your friends are, because you can't interact really with other servers in this game. So if you want to send stuff to other people or you want to play in parties with people, they got to all be on the same server as you. And for me, that's Sylph for now. Who knows? Maybe I'll change. And then race, he was an elven male. Deslok's job, he's a monk, but that's interchangeable. He's actually everything. But right now he's got his monk on. Level, Deslok's a 99 level monk. And then not sure what this says at the bottom. I can't really read this one. Oh yeah, I can. It's Upper Juno. So that probably is region or it's area. That's what it says. So he's actually in the city state of Juno right now within the game. And then so if I was gonna play with Deathlock, and you see the other characters, like I've got like Wildstar, and I created all these characters as mules years ago. That's why they're undressed. But I think when I play, I'm going to try to play as fresh as possible a character and start out here with Wildstar, Taru Taru, and he's got a little axe. I'll probably play him on worst. Let's launch up Wildstar. So log in with Wildstar, yes. And depending on where you last left off, you're going to launch back in where you last were. If you're a returning player, you might be in your residence. It's called a Mog House. If you're a brand new player, you'll get some cutscenes, and you'll start out in whatever your starting city you choose is. So there's three starting cities. One is called Sandoria, kind of the city-state of Sandoria, and that's pretty much run by the Elven, and it's kind of a medieval kind of city, what you would expect kind of out of the Crusades, where the rulers are elven kind of paladin types, so elven warriors. So if you're a Hume or an Elven, it would make sense to start there. If you are a Hume or a Galka, then most of them also might start in Bastuk or Bastok. I usually call it Bastok. And that's kind of an industrial city. There's a lot of engineering. They have like they're basically have like steam engine type stuff. And it's also a very kind of martial kind of city, but it's an industrial city. And so that's a good place for them to start. If you're a Taru Taru, they usually start in the city state of Windhurst. And so it's a good place to start, especially if you're going to be a mage. There's going to be more access early on in that city to mage scrolls and things like that. And also Mithra. Mithra tend to start there. So you're not going to see a lot of Mithra, relatively speaking, in the other cities, but you'll see them in Winders, and you'll see more Taru Taru in Winders, and you'll see more Galka in Bastok. But it actually doesn't matter. You can start in any of the three, and eventually all the cities kind of come together. And you can even change cities as your home city later if you want, once you start traveling. But for me, I would start in the city that was closest to what I was. So again, if I was a Taru Taru or Mithra, I'd start in Windhurst. If I was a Galka, I would start in Bastok. If I was an Elven, I would start in Sandoria. And if I was a Hume, it's a toss-up. I would either start in Sandoria if I wanted kind of more military, or if I wanted more kind of crafting, maybe I would start in Bastok. Anyway, so that's how I would do it. The other thing I would mention is my interface might look a little different from yours. And this is really the last thing I'm going to mention. And the reason is I've put a few mods on it that I really like that for me improve the game. So like my crystal at the top left might look a little different from yours. My my zone radar at the bottom left might look a little different from yours. So I've loaded up some mods that are just quality of life mods to make the game to a way that I think is a little better. So lastly, I just want to show you if you're interested in those mods, they're all free, but it takes a little while to install them all. I've got like a high definition texture pack on it to make the game look a little better than it originally would. Um, so if you want that kind of stuff, what you need to do is go over and go to YouTube. And what I did was I went on YouTube and I found this channel called Next Games and just look for Make Final Fantasy XI Beautiful. And I started with the 2021 edition. That he'll show you how to load up all the texture packs and all those other quality of life mods. There's a program called Windower that allows you to do lots of different things. Again, quality of life makes things a little easier and better. And so I did that and loaded up Windower and the texture packs and things like that. And he's got like a 21, a 22, a 23 edition. I would just go in and install all that, a better map pack, things like that. And the map pack is annotated instead of the originals that are pretty poor. It was a lot harder to play back in the past. It makes it easier to play if you have these kind of enhancements. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Wildstar, and I'm going to play him up to level 99 and something. I don't know what, but it'll be something. I'm going to start out as warrior, and if you look at the different jobs, when you first start, you've got these 6 jobs available. And as you can see, I've already played Wildstar for a little bit up to level 8 Black Mage. And I did that because I wanted to start collecting what's called trusts. And we'll talk about that later in my next video. But what I'm going to do with him now is I'm just going to take him and start him as a level 1 warrior. That's unusual for a Taru, but you'll see the way this game plays, you're going to want to level up multiple jobs. And I don't know what he'll end up being in the future as a main. Probably Black Mage, maybe Red Mage, because he's a Taru. But hey, if I want to be crazy, maybe I'll make him a monk or a warrior. Like I told you, there's really not a lot of distinctions between the different races. Anybody can be anything, and if you're trying to min max, yes, it matters, but the differences are very small, and you can make up for them in gear. So every class is viable on every race. But you start out with these 6 classes: warrior, white mage, red mage, monk, black mage, thief. And then later on, you'll have the opportunity to unlock advanced jobs. And I don't know, there's probably like 10 more jobs. I'd have to go look at how many there are, but there's a bunch more. But that's what I plan to do. And if you want to follow me in that journey, or just use this to help you get started, that would be great. And I'm going to try to play him as much like a new character as possible. I have kind of tried to help him a little bit because I've had Deslok send him some currency. So he does have a little bit of the in-game currency. He does have a little bit of gear. I had Deslok craft him uh, that hat and that axe. So it's basically a +1 hat and a +1 axe to help him get started. But honestly, you can just use the regular stuff and it's fine. And again, I'll go through that as we're leveling up. This axe won't last for long. He'll quickly outgrow this axe. Within a first day, I'll be wanting a new weapon. So it's really not that important to have the min-max stuff. Not when you're leveling. Once you get up to level 99, yes, you're going to want to have the best gear and work on that. And that's really what the end game is all about. So anyway, with that, I think this video is long enough, and I will log in next time with Deslok and probably do a little bit of configuration in the game, and then we're going to start playing. All right, thanks for everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, subscribe, and leave me in the comments if there's something else you'd like me to do. All right, thanks. Bye, guys.